Good morning, everyone. Yesterday was Thanksgiving. I hope you guys were super thankful, super happy, spent a bunch of time with your family. I know I did. It's gonna be a blast. Today we got a bunch of parts to install, hopefully getting some pretty good progress down on the Camaro. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below what you think about the build so far. Let's go and get into the video. So obviously we have our TKX 5-speed that is going to our LT1. To do that, we have a brand new from Ram clutch. We have the flywheel and the clutch, obviously. And then from PSI, we have the wiring harness that will go inside the car. So we're gonna go ahead and get this off, get it mounted. I'm gonna get the air gap, which is just taking the distance from here to the bell housing and from the front plate of the throwout bearing to the mounting surface, and then from the bell housing to the furthest, or the closest to the bell housing, which is the clutch fingers right here. I'll get into that a little bit later. Let me get this assembled really quick and we'll start on that. All right, for these flywheel bolts, they are a 15 millimeter, sits over there perfectly. First pass is 11, second pass is 22, and then a 45-degree torque sequence. Well, good news, bad news. Good news is all of this went together properly. Bad news is our throwout bearing is currently shimmed to the moon. So we're gonna go ahead and get a hold of Hawk's Performance and see if we can get an extended one. But moving on from there, so we're not losing any progress, we're gonna move on to the wiring harness. This is from PSI. It is the HAR 2001, and it is gorgeous. This thing is absolute perfection. Highly recommend them, can't recommend them enough. PSI has been through a couple of our builds now, and I love them. We're gonna go ahead and install that. It's gonna go through the hole in the firewall there. We're gonna bring it up and kind of throw it over with our C100 wiring harness. All this is dirty now, but it won't be at the end of it. I just need to know what goes where and where to put it. So we're gonna go ahead and do the wiring harness now. Go from there. Through the firewall access hole. Little rubber grommet on there. Yeah, so all this goes, there's our PCM connections, a couple other things that need to get wired up. It's supposed to be a 4-wire system with its own fuse block and everything. Looks to be that way. Coming around to the other side of the car. All the wires are nice and loomed up properly. It looks really good. It's definitely worth the money in my opinion. It's all gorgeous. But yeah, so wiring harness installed. We did end up buttoning up the fuel system over here. I know it's a little ugly, but we've got line in, line out, regulator, and then it's going to connect across to the intake over there. But we are going to go get some food. I'm going to return this throwout bearing hopefully for one that's more like the T56, where it's kind of extended out. Our shim idea didn't work too well, so we're going to see if they've got a bigger one. We'll just go from there. Quick little progress report. Don't be mad. I didn't film me putting the engine in. We had a bunch of problems. It's actually the next day from when I started this. We ended up taking off the manifolds on both sides. They hit everywhere. We had to kick back the firewall a little bit. It hit like crazy. Our motor mounts were all messed up. They're all janky, but it is now bolted in on both sides. And we have the tunnel. I don't know if y'all can see that, but we have started putting the manual transmission in. We didn't get our new throwout bearing, but with time we will. But we did end up putting the bell housing, the clutch, pressure plate, flywheel, everything on, and we're gonna bolt it up in the car, get the floor cut for the shifter, and see how the transmission mount mounts. And then, yeah, it's coming together quickly. We're gonna work on some wiring, but it's kind of flying by. This was a pain in the ass for a minute or two, and then it turned into not so bad. So one of the main problems we're having is the distance between these two is about 3 inches shorter from where we need it in the car. So buying this kit from Hawk's, and obviously Tremec and everyone, Hawk's thought ahead and they gave us this nifty little adapter that, lo and behold, brings it back. It's exactly where we need it. So this will bolt on. I'll show you. Goes right there. which will in turn bring that shift point right where we need it. That much further back. So problem solved. I was worried that it was going to be an issue, and it turns out it's not. It's perfect. So while I wait on PSI to get back to me about the wiring harness diagram, for my own sanity and motivation, I went ahead and did like a quick and easy mock-up of the old transmission. Let's see. Again, nothing is set in stone. I have to take it back out to do that throw-up bearing, but we have a transmission. And, goodness, if I wasn't so weak. Good afternoon, everybody. It is now day 4 of working on a solution for the problems. Let me go ahead and get into what happened. So, our wiring harness. We had attempted to run through the firewall where the stock harness goes, up through there into here. Well, the front connectors here and here were about there on the engine. Obviously, that's not going to work. So we are now doing an AC delete. Super awesome. Can't use it anyways because it really doesn't matter. We don't have any way to mount an AC compressor into this yet, so we're going to figure that out later on. Probably some vintage air. But we are going to cut a hole, kind of like how this one is, but here, to route the wires up, over, and onto the engine. Last ditch effort. Number 2, we got our spacers in. Let's see if they are right here. We got some spacers for the throw-out bearing. So now we can put the throw-out bearing in and officially adapt the TKX 5-speed to the LT1, bolt it in place, get the dash all back together, and have that finished. So we're gonna start with the TKX quick. I gotta pull it back out, do this, throw-out bearing, etc., etc. And then we're gonna move from the transmission to the interior little bits. We're gonna drill our hole today, get our wiring routed and possibly put in, and then button everything up. Still a lot to come, but still a lot to do today. So we're gonna get to that, and then I will pick up the video when the throw-out bearing is installed. Alright, so we've got our throw-out bearing to the spec that they want, which is 1.75 thou for a single disc 1.75 thou for single disc clutches, and we are right on that. So what you do is you'll take your bell housing, essentially right here. You'll take your bell housing and you'll measure the depth from the bell housing plate, like the mating surface, all the way to the fingers of the clutch, and then you'll measure from the throw-out bearing to the surface of your transmission. You'll subtract those two numbers and you'll see whether you need to shim it out or shim it in. We had to shim out quite a bit. This throw-out bearing setup isn't quite meant for this, but it came with the kit, so we're going to try and use it. We're going to go ahead and get this installed. I've got to set up the clutch a little better. It's kind of off kilt, so the input shaft is not directly lining up with the input bearing. So I'm going to have to take the bell housing back off, zip off the clutch real quick, redo all that, and then we can install the transmission. All right, so as you guys can tell from that super sick edit and that awesome time lapse of me throwing everything back together, we are in fact officially 5-speed swapped. So bled the clutch a little bit, feels pretty good actually, which is awesome. TKX is feeling wonderful. This is a successful time, man. I don't think I've been this excited for something in a long, long time, so here we go. Next is going to be cutting that hole for the wiring through there, running all the wires to the engine, trying to get everything buttoned up. I gotta send this off to get flashed locally, and then VATs will be deleted, etc. Yeah, I'm gonna cut the video here and then start a new one when I pick up on the wiring. I know this one wasn't so long. Ignore the headliner, I've got pins for that. I know this one wasn't crazy long, but I hope it was at least a little bit entertaining. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Feel free to like, subscribe, Comment down below how you think this is going to go. Is it going to be successful or is it going to crash and burn? Let's find out.